Alright, so we're going to go through week of February 18 quiz. Alright, so what do you guys think about this one? So cutoff opens 2.5, button 3 bets, small blind jams, and then we're in the big blind.
Queens plus.
I think it's Queen's plus. Why do you think that?
It's just part of the range that we should all can defend. Ace king off is too weak, and ace king suited.
I think our range will just I think ace king suited is going to be stronger than queens, so I think any range with that we're restacking off, if it has queens, it's going to have ace king suited.
I think the jam range has a lot of pocket pairs, right? So then queens do better. Because it's just a cold 4-bet jam.
So, just quickly, the cutoff and the button are already in this, right? So the button's already 3-bet and the small blind jams, right?
Yeah.
So, like, all these guys have a completely uncapped ranges. And so I remember quite a while ago where it's like, I forget which position jammed and someone called, like, what should we stack off? It's aces only. And the reason is, like, their ranges are strong. So, like, the small blind is going to have a very strong range here, right? And we have nothing committed versus 3 uncapped ranges. Like, it's going to be something fairly tight, in my opinion. Or, obviously. But, like, queens, if we're going to be stacking off queens, we're going to be stacking off ace king suited for sure, I think.
But like, why queens over ace king suited?
The blockage of the... So if you imagine what the small blind might be jamming here, it might include some queens. So ace king suited will do fine against that, whereas queens won't do too well when you don't block any of the aces and kings.
I think if the jamming range is like queens plus, then I think we like queens and then like ace king also, or not. Probably ace king would be in there too, right?
Alright, so you guys got to remember what these jamming ranges look like pre-flop for 100 big blinds deep. These jamming ranges are usually just a pocket pair and a big ace.
A pocket pair and a big ace?
Yeah. But it usually excludes hands like aces and kings. I mean, sometimes it's kings when the ranges get tight enough, but it usually excludes aces at least.
So that makes ace king a lot worse because the blocker doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If it's pairs, then we want a big pair rather than having ace king block the pairs that don't exist.
Okay, if that's the case, then like if it is a pair, or
I'm just not sure if queens is even too loose. Like maybe it's just kings.
so if it's a pair and ace and like a big ace, say call it ace king, then jacks plus ace king suited seems fine, or jacks plus ace king like flat, it's fine
Which pair do you think is the weakest jam?
for him.
Yeah.
I want to see
So
jack.
when you say it's a pair, I'm assuming like if it's not aces or kings, then I'm assuming that the pair he's jamming is something like nines or tens.
You think he's ripping tens here against cutoff?
I mean,
I don't think so. I think jacks would be bottom, but
like
I don't have any
sorry,
reason to
so
base
Thomas,
it
can you
on.
repeat? Can you repeat, Thomas? So it's a big ace, like ace king for ace king or ace queen, and a pair. Do you mean one pair, like only one pair, or is it?
Yeah, I mean it's usually just one pocket pair, but sometimes it's two.
Okay.
And as the stacks get shorter, there's more hands in the jamming range, obviously. But it starts off as a big ace and a big pair.
How big of an ace? Like ace queen suited, ace king?
Well, usually the offsuit version, so it would be either be ace queen offsuit or ace king offsuit.
Okay. I think so. The problem with we're doing okay with queens, but the problem is that like cutoff and button are still in the hand. So I think given that we can't just call with hands that do okay against the small blind jam range.
Well, that's what we're mainly concerned about. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards queens plus now. Because like the pair he's probably jamming is something like, I'm not sure which one it is, but it's probably either like queens, jacks, or tens. So queens.
I could see queens. I would not be super surprised if
Yeah,
it were
alright,
just
so cool. So here small blind's jamming queens and ace king offsuit.
Okay.
So against this, having ace king suit doesn't really help. With the number of players behind, actually, in the cutoff it does. The cutoff ace king offsuit is fine. So ace king suited is fine. Ace king offsuit is still pretty bad. So the answer is queens plus. So let's have a look at here. So this is the jamming range of small blinds. You guys can see it's got queens and ace king offsuit. For the reddish pink. And this is the response against a jam. So here in the button you've got queens plus, cutoffs, queens plus, ace king suited. And then the button is basically the pocket pairs and ace king.
Okay, and can we confirm what I thought? So, once we say the big blind calls,
Yeah, it's kings plus.
then everyone out. Oh, it's everyone just kings plus. Okay.
Can we see the small blind jam range?
Yeah, so it was queens and ace king offsuit.
Means it's the reddish thing, right?
Yeah.
Queens. Okay. Ah, only those hands. Wow. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. We don't want ace king because it doesn't have any blockers.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, it does have blockers for the players behind, but that doesn't quite matter as much.
Right, okay.
Alright, so cutoff opens, button, and then small blind. 4 bets to a normal size, and then we jam. So what's our jamming range? So it should be pretty obvious from the last hand.
Sorry.
So here, cutoff opens, button 3 bets. So online called 4 bets, and we're going to cold 5 bet all in. So what's our jamming range? What's our cold 5 bet range? And from the previous hand, it should be pretty obvious because they're roughly the same.
Yeah, this one is kings and ace king. I'm not sure about ace king suited or ace king off. I'm not sure how many of those we have there.
No. So we're jamming here. We're not calling it all in.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
that's-
jammy, sorry.
I think we're doing queens plus ace king.
Yeah.
The first one, yeah.
So here, so it was pretty obvious from the last hand we're looking at the jamming range from the small blind for the cold 4 bet all in was queens and ace king offsuit. So if the small blind 4 bets to a normal size, right, then our jamming range is going to be queens plus and ace king.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. So that's the jamming range, and calling the jam, it's going to be kings plus for the other 2 positions except for the small blind. Alright, so small blind limps. So it's a blind battle. Small blind limps, we raise it to 3.5, and then the small blind 2 pots it.
I think ace king is all in. And then kings is raise.
Why?
So I think this.
Yeah.
I think this.
When they go very polar, ace king just goes into the shoving range.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that, or, hmm. So I've
Thing
seen it
is, with
before.
aces, when they go really polar, you're more incentivized to either call or click back.
So I
Yeah,
remember, I
that makes
remember, I've seen it before where with ace queen suited, what you do is like, versus like these largish, like these large three bets, you can make it some like. So normally when we put in a third of our stack, we more than a third of our stack, we normally are prepared to go all in. But you can like I found counterintuitive. It was like it was ace queen suited and another thing where you bet like you make it like you min it. So in this case, it'd be 17 point
Plus 14 to 31.
yeah to like 30. Yeah, okay, so it's 31. But like normally, if you're putting in 32 big 31 and a half 32 big blinds, you're gonna call off anything. But ace queen suited can min it, so raise.
Like
And
click
then
fold.
Yeah, and then fold. So I think ace queen suited is a raise or a raise or call, but not a jam and not a call. And
Yeah, I
aces
mean, you got to remember that it's a small numbers of big blind, so if you got an ace queen suited, are you really going to fold to an all in?
Oh yeah, so that was with I guess tighter ranges. I think aces probably calls. Just it seems because it's more than happy to see any flop with a SPR of 2, and then ace queen suited just falls in raise or call.
Yeah, so this is it, yeah. So limp, we raise pretty wide. And then the 3-bet range, it's basically 9s plus and then some of the offsuit junk and some of the crap. And so this is our continuing range, so we've got jamming range of like 9s, 10s, jacks, ace king offsuit, ace queen offsuit, king jack, queen jack suited. So that's what I was talking about with these 4-bet jamming ranges. Depends on the sack pot ratio, of course. There's usually a few pocket pairs, usually just one. But as the stacks get deeper and the ranging out wide, it can be more than one. And then a big ace. So ace king offsuit just rips it there. King's
what is
back.
considered that a click back?
Yeah, ace king suited is click back. Usually the suited hands, because they play a lot better post flop, they're okay with just clicking it back. Yeah. Aces traps. Very good.
Yeah. Why do we just rip ace king there? Is there a reason, or what's the reason?
Yeah, it's a semi bluff. I mean, it doesn't play quite as well. I mean, it's really good as a bluff catcher, but it's even better as a jam. So look at its all in expectations are 8.8 big blinds versus clicking it back's 8.5. I mean, it's a tiny difference. Yeah, calling is no good with only 5.7.
Okay.
It's just a really good jam. Right.
Yeah, okay.
Because you end up having 50. I think a little bit ace queen offsuit as well. So it's probably around 50% against the calling range. And when you've got 50% equity, you usually want to push that pretty hard, because then you win from them folding. Even though they're not folding any chops, but they do fold some of the worst hands. So it's that in combination with these pocket pairs. So these pocket pairs that you could think are the quote unquote value, and ace king offsuit's a quote unquote, but it's really halfway in between, right? So like they're really semi bluffs. They're not really bluffs. They're not really value, but they're because they've got equity of close to 50% against a calling range. You can rip it in and then win a big chunk of the pot. Compared to calling. So the ace king off's 8.7, there's jacks showing 9.56, 10s 4.35. I mean, the thing is when you call these hands, you're going to have to go post flop, so your opponent gets to realise their equity. But if you just rip it, your opponent will sort of call with strong hands and realise their equity with those hands. But you don't have to do it with any post flop stuff.
Okay.
And then when the hands get much stronger, they become better clicking it back and then playing an extra 3. right? Obviously, the expectation with jamming this hand is still pretty high. But aces, for example, really likes to trap and play its SPR with basically always holding an over pair, not worrying about anything weaker. Kings likes to click it back, right, and try to get an extra shred of value from some of these hands like that.
What's the EV difference between clicking it and jamming with kings?
About a big blind? No. Yeah, about a big blind.
Okay.
So it is significant. All right. Cutoff opens, blind calls, small one squeezes, and then we're in the cutoff. So this is response to the squeeze.
All right. So I'm pretty confident the ace-5 suited folds.
Yeah, I agree.
And the reason is you don't need there's no need to I don't want to say get tricky, but there's no need to like continue with such a weak hand. Yeah, ace-5 suited is the fold. I want to say just because it's simply the weakest, and when he raises so big, that's like 2.5 call 1. That's like it's like 1.5x pot. Knowing the sim is going to be 1.5x or something around there. Like you just don't need to. Against such a large one, you're not going to want to be calling too much, and like ace-5 suited just going to do not well enough that you're going to want to like you raise and then he jams and you fold or anything like that. So I think ace-5 suited folds. Ace-king suited. Okay. The jam.
I think Jacks is a jam, and I think Ace King's
I agree.
a raise.
I agree. I think Jacks is the jam, Ace King is the raise, and tens is the razor call. Because
Great.
yeah,
there you go. Jacks there, always ripping it. In combination with Ace King offsuit and some other stuff. Ace offsuit is always a fault. Yeah. Pretty straightforward there.
Is tens not a bit thin in this spot?
Click it back. I mean, you fold, click it back. This is the jamming range for the small blind because the stack to pot ratio becomes pretty small, and then you're calling it off with tens.
So is tens just not strong enough to jam, or what's the reason for the click back instead of the jam?
So what are we looking at? So here the expectation of tens for calling is pretty low. The idea is that if you call and then you get an overcall from the person behind you, is not great, because essentially you've turned your hand into a set line. Clicking it back, and the idea is basically just to get folds from those overcards with 50% against you. So it's I guess you could say it's a center bluff there.
why can't you? So if you can jam jacks, why can't you jam tens?
It's not like you can't jam tens. It's the expectation of doing something else is higher. The idea is that with jacks you've got much closer to 50% equity than with tens. With tens you probably only have like 43% equity against the calling range.
So if you click tens and you get jammed on, are we stacking it off?
Yes.
Now you're folding. Oh,
Because you've put in 30, you put in a 30 stack already.
So it's just that versus the click back. There are going to be a bunch of calls from. What are they calling against just the click?
Yeah, I mean they're not calling much. Most of the playing jam or fold. But the idea is you get those two overcard type hands to fold.
so you get like ace queen off, king jack off, king jack off.
Yeah, and all those hands have
A lot of the suited tens.
basically 50%
Yeah.
equity against you versus calling and then playing post flop against those hands.
Okay, so quick question. A lot of the never mind. It's going to be rendered move. Sorry, never mind. Yeah.
And so like if you look at here against the jam, this is the calling range, right? So against this kind of calling range, basically it's tens plus ace king. You can look at the equity after we call. So for example, Jack's got 43%, but 10's only got 34%. So because Jack's is much closer to 50%, that's why it likes to shove it in. And there's a little bit of other stuff as well. So maybe if we add that stuff into the calculation, just say something like 20% of these. I'm gonna recalculate it. Yeah, Jack's got 44.5%. So the idea is like when you're having some of these hands that wants to jam, they have to like not really want to play post flop in that, because they're going to end up seeing overcards to their pair, which is not so great, especially when the opponent is very heavy in double overcard type hands. So for example, Jacks versus a king queen off, it's basically 50-50. So pushing to get them to fold that kind of equity is nice. Ace king off, so same kind of idea except with pocket pairs. So the shoving range is going to be these two hands essentially for sort of semi-value, Jacks and ace king offsuit, because they have between 40 and 50% equity against the calling range, and they get a bunch of folds when they do shove. So their expectation is pretty high. One, they get 60% folds, and two, they have almost 50% equity against the calling range. Right, okay, so button opens to 3, small blind raises button, so big blind calling 4 bets, and we jam on the button. So what's our jamming range?
This one is Jacks plus ace king, but I'm not sure if that's too light. I think the big blind click range is weak enough that we can go fairly thin though.
The big blind click range is not that weak.
We saw something like kings, queens, and ace king suited, right?
Sorry?
I remember before it was like cutoff button and then small blind, and the click range was something like kings, queens, and ace king suited.
No, it was queens and ace king.
No, that was for the jam.
Oh, sorry. What do you mean the click range?
So like the jam range was just queens and ace king off, but then like the click range, click back, or
This is different.
I mean, we can look at the code 4-bet range of the button. It's probably like 10s plus, and then some suited broadways, ace queen off, ace king off.
The cold 4-bet range of the big blind?
Yeah, it's not like super tight, but pretty tight. So we can definitely jam jacks, I think. When you jam jacks, they fold the ace queen off, king queen suited, king jack suited, ace jack suited, ace queen suited, and then other bluffs.
Yeah, I mean like Jacks is a bluff here, isn't it?
sorry, what's the difference between this one and the one we just saw, where it was where we had to sort aces, kings, ace king?
That thing was different because it was a squeeze. The cutoff cold call us.
The cutoff.
Okay.
Oh, we opened cutoff and then the button cold called us, and then small blind squeezed, and then we were thinking about jamming, clicking, or calling.
Okay, yeah. So we're playing our entire range as a raise here, right? Like as a jam. So, right. Anyway, I hope no one disagrees with that. So, if that's the case, like, So okay, based on like I have it memorized from before, like the Zenith ranges for the you can pull up like cold four bet versus button and small blind for the big blind is it's like jacks plus, and then there's a few of the or jacks plus like ace queen plus, and then some of the suited ones, so like ace jack suited, king queen suited, king jack suited. And I also just pulled it up for reference. And then the sometimes are like tens and ace five suited and king queen off and ace 10 suited, king 10 suited. So like that's something, if I had to approximate, that's something like 7%, 8% of hands. So I'd say we can probably jam with something like 3% of hands.
So aces, kings, queens, that's 2%. Ace king suited, ace king off, that should add another percent.
No, it ends up more than 1%. That's 16 combos. That'll double it to 4%. Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm fine with queens plus ace king again. If that's an option.
How'd you get 3% from 7%?
Let's just add the combos.
Yeah.
6 pocket pairs, and then
18,
ace king is 16 combos total.
34 on 13, what is it, 1326?
Yep. That's 2.5%, so we can add more.
Queens plus ace king is 2.5%.
Why are we saying 3% from
Jacks
like,
plus ace king is 3%.
Alright, so probably want jacks plus ace
Kings
king
plus
then.
ace king is 3.5%. So what are you guys going for? Jacks plus ace king?
Yeah, to answer Owen's question about where did I get, like where did I go from, so I estimated it to be something like 7-8%, and how I got 3. It's a great question.
That's like saying that he'll stack off probably half his range, roughly.
Yeah, he'll probably call about half of it, so I don't really know. Kind of just.
I don't know why we're trying to figure out 3% range, or 3% is like
arbitrary. Okay, I'll explain it. So, like, we're obviously going to need to be tighter than his range. Like, we can't just stack off his exact range, right? Because if we do, then we're just going to get fucked when he calls. So we're going to need to be tighter than that.
And then small blind's also a problem, right?
Sorry.
Small blind can also
I don't
makes
think
us a little slightly tighter.
So the small blind calling range is not going to be very wide, so I'm not too worried about it. So if we jam the small blind calling range when the big blind is already like it's cold four bet, like the small blind calling range is going to be super tight. It's going to be like
aces, kings.
Yeah, kings plus is what I'd say it'd be. So I'm not too worried about it. But the big blind stacking up range is going to be, if when the small blind folds, it's going to be, probably.
Jacks plus ace king.
Yeah, something like that. So we can be a little wider than jacks plus ace king. So I'd say
we can figure out the percentage of the big blind stack off range when we jam, right?
we can figure out what. Sorry.
Like that one, we can just figure out like the stack off range percentage wise when we jam and big blind stacks off.
Sure, I guess we can just look at his equity, right?
With every hand against our range, yeah, but
Sure,
that's not
we jam 126. He needs to call like 74 to win like 125-ish, maybe? Or is that less? No, that's like
So I'm going to think about it on the button. So
145.
So the small blind folds. Let's go to this. Let's go with all that. Well, like 74
and 213.5. Yeah.
2 on 3.5.
Yeah.
34.6% equity.
Yeah. So.
All right. So let's have a look at some different jamming ranges. So let's say jacks plus ace king. What did we say? 34.5 was it?
Well, 10-10 is almost there.
There you go.
Okay,
So it's
identical.
Jack plus ace king. If we jam jacks plus ace king is what he needs.
That seemed
All right, and then let's have a look at if we make it queens plus ace king. Let's see what happens. You guys expect that?
So the ace king roots it out. Yeah.
Because
Okay.
now we're ace king heavy rather than
Um,
pocket pair heavy.
So we actually want to be going wider, like tens plus ace king. Does anyone agree with that?
So
we wanna
you guys, did you guys expect that when we have the tighter range they call wider? Seems a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Say that again. Sorry.
We got a tighter range they call wider. Seems counterintuitive, but
Because we have too much ace kings in our range that pairs can just coin flip against.
So if that's the case, is it?
And does it get even wider queens?
If we go back and add tens, it goes back to being tighter again. Interesting.
What happens if we drop, like, we only have kings and
Kings
ace
plus
king?
ace king. I mean, kings plus ace king is pretty rare jamming range, but yeah, all the pocket pairs.
Yeah, let's.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you do like kings plus ace king suited, then it'll be different.
So it appears to be
Yeah.
some sort of pivot around here, right?
Yeah.
With queens plus ace king, they call most of the pocket pairs. With jacks, they're continuing with jacks plus, and with tens, they're continuing with jacks plus. And so with what happens with nines, tens plus an ace queen suited. So there seems to be something going on with these two pocket pairs when you add them in. Let's see what happens when you add them in with like 50% frequency. Yeah, same kind of thing. So what are you guys thinking?
So
It's pretty interesting.
interesting. Okay, so with all that knowledge,
So, I mean, it feels like if jacks is the pivot point, then it seems to make sense that jacks is like the bottom of the range.
yeah, clearly we need to be jamming jacks, right? Like, if it makes them fold more, like, isn't that sweet? Where we can just pick up 40 big blinds, 39 and a half
Yeah,
big blinds.
it's sweet when they fold their ace queens, their
Yeah.
king queen suited, king jack suited,
Yeah,
ace 10
so-
suited, ace 5 suited.
All right, and here's another thing you have to consider: the hand that the small blind folded. So let's just consider. Let's just say like it's king jack.
Wouldn't we want to put in the amount of jacks that makes all their pocket pairs close to indifferent, or not?
If small blind
why?
folds king jack offsuit, I guess it's pretty bad for us.
So here we're looking a range when we've got jacks plus an ace king with a dead king and jack. But before with no dead cards, it was the continuing range was jacks plus ace king. And now if we, let it run, the pocket pairs come back in.
What is this doing? What is this calculating right
So
now?
this is calculating the equity of a hand with jacks plus versus jacks plus ace king with a dead king and jack. So we're considering what happens when the small blind folded.
Yeah, so basically what that does is it greatly diminishes the number of ace kings by 4, and it diminishes the amount of jacks from 6 to 3.
Just do this to make it faster.
Wait, so why did we drop king jack?
Just
We're
to see
just-
what happens when the small blind, because when we were calculating it before without any dead cards,
Yeah.
it just jacks plus an ace king, right?
Yeah,
Because small
Against
blind usually
against
leave that
jack
up
plus
Broadway.
ace king, it's jack plus ace king, right? With
Yeah.
the 34.5% equity that they need.
Yeah.
Okay, but the small blind has some cards in their hand that they folded.
Yeah.
So
Which they do.
Let's just say it's like an ace and a 5. Oops, wrong one. This here. Suddenly all those pocket pairs come back in.
Okay.
They're pretty close.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I was just wondering why King Jack in particular.
Oh no, it doesn't matter. I'm just having a look at a few different hands.
Okay.
That they could be folding. So let's just say like ace queen offsuit. Let's see the pocket pairs come back in. So like when we're jamming like jacks plus and ace king, even though the continuing range with no dead cards is jacks plus and ace king, with the dead cards it becomes all pocket pairs, and ace king. So,
But they're not for betting all the pocket pairs,
yeah,
even though they could stack off with all pocket pairs if they wanted to.
yeah. So they're definitely
Well,
not
it
four betting
would
all
be
the pocket
good for them,
pairs,
right? So, like,
but all the
it-
pocket pairs that they do four bet, they're second off with.
Yeah, so the pocket pairs that they do 4-bet, wouldn't it simply do 10s plus though?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right. So, what do you guys think the answer is to this question? What is our jamming range?
We didn't really look at ace-5 suited, but
I think that's a pure fold, isn't it?
If we add that in, I think they'll come even more pocket pairs.
Well, if they're calling all the pocket pairs, we don't want to have ace five suited. We want to have
yeah.
overcuts or
So
overpairs.
I think we're fairly safe. Yeah, so that's what I thought. So we want to rule out the ace-5 suited ones. So
All right. So here it is. Yeah. Jack plus and ace king, and then when we jam, they call all the pocket pairs that they did four bet with. I mean, these hands they're pretty low frequency, but same kind of idea. Yeah.
Small blind also calls jacks plus ace king suited.
Yeah. Ace king off does pretty poorly in a multi-way all-ins. So, like when you call ace king offsuit and it becomes a multi-way all-in, you end up running into too much ace king, and then you're chopping. But with ace king suited, because you got slightly extra equity, it's usually better. All right.
so it's jack plus ace-king.
Yep. Okay, hijack. We're here. A hijack opens to 2. We're facing a squeeze from the button after the cutoff calls.
Facing a squeeze from the button after the cutoff calls. Okay.
So I think ace 10 suited is a pure fold. I think ace jack is as well. And then
There's no ace-jack.
no,
Why
I
can't
know,
king,
but
why can't
I'm
king
just
jack
saying.
be the pure fold too?
King jack I think is a raise. I'm saying, but ace jack and ace 10 are actually weaker than people think at this spot. Ace queen suited I think can be called though. But can also raise.
Okay.
So yeah.
So sorry, can you clarify your thoughts then?
Sure. Yeah. Ace 10 is a fold. I think ace queen off is the raise or fold, and then I think the raise or call is ace queen suited. They tend to pair like that. And
And then the king
jack.
jack suited raise?
I think king jack's a raise. I think it's a good raise. I think it's a good bluff.
So
King Jack over ace 10. Is the jack's more relevant of a blocker?
no,
I mean,
see,
having
yeah,
the king is nice,
But yeah, having an ace is nice too, no?
So
but a lot of our values already have ace, maybe?
I looked at this, or I was unfortunately had a really busy month at work, but yeah, I looked at it a while ago. King Jack suited loves to raise. Yeah, okay.
This is the range here. I mean,
It's not that high,
precision.
but it's
The
just-
precision
I mean, you've got to raise
is
something.
medium. The medium's precision. That's why you get some folds with king with these hands. But I think when this actually completes, these hands will figure themselves out. But basically, the idea is ace queen suited makes for a pretty decent bluff catcher. So that's why it sometimes calls. Right.
Okay.
Ace 10 suited is pretty trash because it's too easily dominated by the offsuit hands. King Jack suited always raise, Ace Queen offsuit raise or fold. King Jack suited is pretty good, blocking both kings and jacks. I'm blocking Ace 6 hands that would fold. right? So like king jack suited blocks just as much ace king, but doesn't block like ace four, ace five kind of stuff.
Makes sense.
Nice.
All right, so we open cutoff, 2 calls, a squeeze, and then where it's on us.
So how big in general should these squeezes be when you have these?
A little bit bigger than the size you would normally 3-bet. So if you normally 3-bet over cutoff to like 12.5, then you're going to 17.5 is fine.
Okay.
Eight probably makes it into the raise or call, and then 10 is raise, call, or fold.
Eights is raise or call, but tens is because
And I know eights like sometimes will like be put in the 4-bet range.
yeah,
Not sure if it applies in this case though.
but eights is just weaker than tens. No.
Thing is, they don't really squeeze too many 8x.
Okay, I'm almost certain that tens is the jam.
Oh, okay.
In this case, and the reason being, so why is that? So
Is it because big blind squeezes very polar?
yeah, and that's why. So so the reason again is like so, a lot of his hands that he's going to be squeezing with, like king queen suited, king jack suited, king 10 suited, king queen off, ace queen off, maybe ace jack suited, these types of hands, we can get them to fold. And when we can push them off 50% equity, that's my reasoning there. Did anyone follow that?
So
They also squeeze some hands like, I don't know, lower pairs and also like suited connectors, right?
Sorry?
Like a big blind might squeeze 6-5 suited, 7-6 suited sometimes.
No, because he can just call those. Like hands that do fine multi-way are hands like 6-5 suited, right?
Yeah.
So they're not going to want to. And same thing with hands like twos through eights. Those are all going to call, or maybe eights sometimes. Maybe eights is a pivot where it sometimes raises. But can we so those small pocket pairs, they're going to call, right?
Suit hands would be a big part of the squeeze range, and then
Sorry. Yeah. So a big part of his squeeze range is going to be these like double broadways, but they're not going to include tens. Very importantly, right? Like they're going to be like king queen, king jack. Maybe there's some kings, some tens rather, but tens will like be able to push off a lot of equity, like push off a lot of chops and still do well versus the call range. And then
yeah, if it's big Broadway heavy, that makes sense to me.
sorry.
If the squeeze range is big Broadway heavy, then jamming tens makes sense, and then probably ace would be the call, and then ace jack off. That's why ace jack suited, all three, and ace queen raise the call.
Sorry.
So ace queen suited is the call.
I think ace queen suited is the call. Yeah.
Yeah,
Tens is all in.
Tens all in, and then
Ace jack suited all three, and then ace razor call. Yeah, I guess it makes sense.
I think so. Raise call or fold is going to be eights. Eights is going to have like no clue what to do. And ace jack suited is razor call. You're not going to fold ace jack here.
Yeah, I agree. We're not following it. I wasn't sure what to do with the eights, but that makes sense logically.
Yeah, eights like it just feels like it's going to be slightly minus EV no matter what you do.
We're definitely folding something at some point with that hand.
Yeah.
It's just a question of
fair.
I would say eights. Like I'll be honest, I think I'd fold eights like most or all the time here.
Yeah, because big blind probably doesn't squeeze that polar in. It's way too strong.
No. So like the reason, like you're not gonna like eights. I can see how like if you're very good, you're gonna know how to handle it. But like eights is in a funky spot. So
Ace is behind some of the button cold call.
Sorry? Sorry?
Ace is behind some of the button cold call range.
Yeah.
Nines, tens.
And the reason I think eights can jam is similar to the tens.
Would it be a
I think
jam?
jamming's a burn though. No, there's no way it's jamming. It can
Sorry?
raise, but
Yeah,
I think jamming's
probably
jamming's a
can't
burn.
jam eights.
Well, so you can raise and then they'd fold still too.
Yeah,
I think
that's
I
fine.
don't think it'd be a jam, but I think it'd be like a click.
So if we were to raise eights to say 35 big blinds or 33 big blinds, let's say, right? Can you do that? 15.
We did
Yeah, we can do it to 32,
15, so
32 and a half, right? So we can do 32 and a half. Like if we were to do that, then a hand like king queen off that he squeezed with will fold. A hand like king jack suited, I don't know what it'll do, but like I can see that like you will get folds, and you don't block any of them. So
And when they jam, you still have to stack off though.
Probably not.
yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
the problem. So
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't think you would.
I mean, if they're like jamming ace king with like a lot of pairs, ace is probably going to be like the same thing as before, right? You have to call it any pair.
sorry.
Could be true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like remember what we did with jacks plus ace king, and then you saw that you could call any pair if you only jam like queens plus ace king.
I was 26 and then jammed for hundreds, and this is 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Could be pretty close to that.
Okay.
But then the ranges are different, no?
Okay. Let's just recap everything. We think ace queen suited is a good bluff catcher here, so that's going to be the call. Right?
I feel like that ace queen is like called in almost a lot of spots.
Yeah,
When
and
you
the
get
reason
through
is
that.
it's a good bluff catcher, right?
Yeah.
Like it does really well against the bluffs. Because like if he has a bluff like not a bluff, but like if he has like king queen, you're gonna do really nicely against that.
Yeah, and then worse aces you also beat.
Yep, you beat worse aces, and then so ace jack. So that's ace queen. Tens we agree is the all in, because it folds out it pushes out the spots where it's got half the equity, like 50% equity. So and eights is
Why does okay when we raise,
yeah.
what kind of pairs is the big blind calling?
When we raise, what kind of pairs the big blind calling?
Yeah.
I mean, we're also going to jam something like ace king off, right? So probably a lot of pairs.
A lot of pairs.
Yeah, and that's why we're gonna prefer to have tens and eights.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
if he has nines specifically, like we agreed that he's gonna like deuces through sevens or something like that is gonna call, and eights is mostly call. Like eights is around the pivot of wanting to squeeze. So if that's the case, then tens will do better against the nines, eights, right? Can anyone explain, like, I kind of put ace jack suited in the razor call by process of elimination, but I don't have a good reason for it. For it wanting to, like,
I
calling.
mean, it's not going to stack off if you click, right? That's for sure.
So that would put it in the raise for me. Okay, and I guess we don't have a raise, so ace jack suited is going to be nice. Like you can click it to like 32 and then fold. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then why would it be okay calling it then?
Wouldn't you prefer to click it with like ace queen and then not fold, or do you just fold anyways?
I mean, ace queen just plays very well as a call.
So if you're
Maybe-
gonna call what? So if you're gonna call like ace queen or ace jack, which one are you gonna want to call more? I'm gonna say ace queen because
Because
he could have ace jack.
if you call
Right,
ace jack, you
queen's
can
pretty
be
strong, yeah.
behind ace queen off. That will squeeze.
You don't compare it that way, like ace queen, ace jack. You compare like ace queen, like raise versus ace queen call, right?
Yeah. So ace jack suited. So like no, not exactly. So when you like, what's the EV of the hand gonna be, right? So I'm suggesting that the EV of calling for ace jack is gonna be worse than the EV of calling for ace queen suited.
Yeah,
By, by more than the raise will be affected. So when you raise, right, ace queen and ace jack, I think that their equity is going to be about the same. but the call equity of ace queen suited is going to be better. So that's why I put ace queen suited in the pure call and ace jack suited in the razor call.
Yeah. Okay.
Ace queen's just a bit of a monster post flop versus his squeeze range. It just does really well, plays really well, and
I love how this guy talks. It's a monster.
Monster.
Yeah. All right. Does anyone have?
I'm just thinking potentially.
All right, so we're thinking ace queen suited is being call. What else is there?
Tens
And
jams.
is all in.
Tens is all in.
Ace jack suited razor call.
And then
Ace
two,
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah. All right, so the method I was running in the background. We can have a look at it.
Sorry.
So I was running some numbers in the background. So that's it there.
Yeah.
So tens always jams. It's always calls. Raise call fold. Regular fold. And like the raise size even is like if you click it, even if like you click it back. I mean, there's no clickbacks in this sim, but like if you click it back, it ends up being 30. You end up putting 30 something in the pot.
What's the 50% raise to? Sorry.
This would be like
You
35.
can just check, right?
Anyway, this is like 37.5. But like, even if you clicked it back, you're still putting like 33 big ones in. You're gonna have to call
all the
over the jam anyway. So like these raises are essentially jams. Anyway, so right, so this is the squeezing range. Okay, so you can see it's fairly wide, a little bit of eights, but let's just say nines plus all the super broadways, good chunk of offsuit broadways. So let's just do
Nines plus. Yeah.
This. Okay, so this is the range for these eight cards. Okay, so when facing the all in, right? So say we shove. When facing the all in, they need to call 82.5.
Yeah. That's 8.2. Yeah.
82.5. Why do I keep doing that? 82.5 to win the 205. Right in the middle, because there's the two calls from the two players.
Yeah.
So roughly 40% equity. So when you think about what our jamming range might look like, add a bunch of hands in, and then see what kinds of hands do that. So like if it's really tight like this, which hands have 40.5% equity was it? They were calculated.
Plus.
40.25. Say 40%. Right, not a lot of hands. But if we go wider, say this. What was that jamming range again? And we get rid of aces because aces are never in there.
Wait, why do we never have aces?
Aces is always going to call.
Aces always call these really large raises, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kanu's course talked a little bit about this. He basically says you flat aces when you're flatting a wide range to protect it. I don't know if you guys have a thought about whether that's correct or not. He basically says we're far more inclined to call with aces when we have a wide range.
All right, so say we're jamming nines plus ace king, all that kind of stuff. Calling like that. All right, that doesn't matter. Basically, we can have a think about how wide they would be calling against our jam, right? And how many hands we need to shove to make it profitable. Let's just say they're only continuing like this. All right, so fairly tight. I mean, it's kind of open. So let's just say continuing like this. So with this squeeze range, if they're only continuing like this, they're only continuing 30% of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. And against that range, we can look at the equity of all of these hands. Right, a good chunk of these hands have got like 30% equity. Okay, so with a hand with 30% equity, let's say, so the 25 big blinds are in the middle. If they fold that 70% of the time, right, and they only call 30% of the time, we're risking the 97.5 big blinds with our jam, but we win 30% of the pot when we do jam. Okay, we click it up, right? So this means that say we jam a hand with 30% equity, like ace-5 suited or something like that. If they're only continuing 30% of the time, we win 6.7 big blinds.
Right, so we can almost do any hand.
Which is huge, right? So basically, any hand which we think has 30% equity against Jack plus and Ace King.
Yeah.
Right.
So almost anything.
Basically, all the pocket pairs, all their suited aces, even King Queen suited probably. We should like 6-5 suited, 6-7 suited. You can start jamming as well. All right. So obviously the opponent can't let us do that. Okay. So the opponent needs to call more. Okay. So let's just iterate it over and see how we go. So 10s plus Ace King. Okay.
Yep.
Same kind of idea.
35%.
A hand with 30% equity. We're thinking about jamming, right? 25, and now they're calling. Now they're folding 65% of the time, and they call 35% of the time. And the same kind of deal. 97.5 and 0.3 times pot 205. Okay, still massively plus EV, right? 3.65 big blinds for jamming a hand with 30% equity. Alright, so the opponent still can't let us do that. So because otherwise we'd just jam everything. Basically all the suited aces we would jam. King Queen suited, Queen Jack suited, that kind of stuff. All the pocket pairs. Okay. Right, what else is there? 8 and 9s. And Ace Queen suited. Right, 42%. Okay. And now equity, still considering a hand with 30% equity. But now it's 42% of the time. So 25, right, 0.58.
58.
Plus 0.42 times minus 97.5 plus 205 times 0.3. So it's almost zero there.
Break.
Okay. So basically, if they're continuing with the Queen's plus and the Ace King, we're breaking even with a hand with 30% with 30% equity. So like you can start jamming like Ace-5 suited and stuff like that, and we would break even, which is actually what happens here. Is Ace-5 suited here, jamming has got just as much EV as folding. Yeah, the all-in EV is still negative compared to folding. So it's because in these very rare lines the sims. The EV of the sims aren't quite as accurate as it can be, because they don't happen as much. Anyway, so knowing that with a hand with 30% equity, for 31% equity, 32% equity, we would happily jam. So that means we can jam stuff like Ace-5, Ace-4, King Queen, Queen Jack, like sixes, against that kind of range, and still make money. Okay, so they need to call even wider than that. So maybe they want to call some of the next strongest hand, which would be stuff like King Queen suited, maybe, right? Maybe Ace Jack suited. So they need to call pretty damn wide, otherwise we print by jamming. Okay. Actually, maybe not super wide, because there is still 2.7% of the time that the other two players would wake up with a strong hand and call. But against this jam, this is the width of the calling range. It's like all these 8s plus, Ace Queen suited, King Queen suited. And the reason is because there's so much dead money already in the pot, right, from the other two players that called, right, which is something that you do have to think about. Because there's that extra dead money from the two extra players, the get it in range is much wider. Compare that to if we just open and then face the really big like 3-bet like this, okay, and then we jam, even though they 3-bets are roughly the same size, right, 16.25, 17.5, right, the getting in range is much tighter because there's not that extra dead money floating around, right? So here against the 3-bet, there's only 20 big blinds worth of dead money, versus against the squeeze, there's 25 big blinds worth of dead money, and an extra 5 big blinds is enough to fight over with a lot more hands. Okay. All right. What was that? 7. Okay. Question 8. So small blind open, so on a small blind big blind battle. So this here should be bread and butter stuff. So you guys should be able to ace this question.
Yeah, aces calls. We are not. We're not.
Ace 9 suited is probably not in range.
Yeah, it's not 3-bet.
But I don't remember 10-9 off being 3-bet either. But maybe it makes sense sometimes.
Yeah, it's in there sometimes, but it's definitely a fold. So.
And then Queen Jack is the call.
So aces is a call.
Yeah,
Queen Jack jams.
Queen Jack suited jams. I remember that. Thomas had a
Good.
discussion with Anthony about that. He can get away with just jamming it.
Wow.
Oh, 4-bet jamming it. Oops, never mind. But I'm assuming Queen Jack suited.
That's the 5-bet jam.
5-bet jam.
Okay.
Ace 9 is 9 range and 10-9's fold, I think.
Correct.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So Queen Jack suited is just a rip. Yeah. So here, I mean, like the reason being because like Queen Jack suited is so damn strong in blind versus blind battles. Like if you have Queen Jack offsuit, you have to always 4-bet it. So that's why it pretty much always calls against an open, because like if you 3-bet and you face a 4-bet, like Queen Jack offsuits mean 5-betting. So yeah, so that's why you don't want to 3-bet the Queen Jack offsuit very often. And Queen Jack offsuit, whenever you 3-bet it, you're just ripping it in. Same kind of idea in terms of the calculations that we've done before. Queen Jack suited is going to have like 35% equity, so they don't have to fold that much in order for you to break even. So here against this kind of calling range, remember Ace King off always rips it over our 3-bet instead of 4-betting. So this is the calling range, right? You see how wide they have to call, and so against this kind of very wide calling range. I guess it's kind of wideish calling ranges, say 9s plus Ace Queen suited. Where we go? With Queen Jack suited, you got this 32% equity. So that 32% equity, you can press pretty nicely with the 30-ish big blinds in the pot, right? Because there's 30 big blinds in the pot, they don't have to fold that often. So if we run the calculation out, let's say 30 big blinds, we've got 30% equity, and so they fold 55% of the time. So 0.55 plus 0.45 times how much we risk 90 big blinds, say, minus 90 plus 200 times 0.32. Right, winning a good chunk of big blinds by just ripping the Queen Jack suited. Right, because there's so much dead money already. And in fact, they're calling a bit more often than 45%. Very good. Okay. Button opens 2.5. We 3-bet. Big blind. Cold 4-bets. Button. Cold 5-bets. Cold 5-bets. 5-bets. All in, and then we're on the small blind. So what do we do?
So we've seen this before, right? Or different, like somewhat different numbers?
Yeah, very, very close.
Like before it was 3, 13.5, 26. Now it's 2.5, 11.5, 22. But if we remember, like the jamming range of the button was Jacks plus Ace King, right?
Yeah, and we don't call with Ace King off. We call with Ace King suited. And then
Yeah, it's different this time then. Button's not going to be jamming that wide. It's jamming a bit differently. It jams a lot of Ace King off, but it doesn't jam Aces and Kings.
Sorry?
So, I'm pretty sure the button doesn't actually start jamming in that spot. I think it.
You think the button has a flatting range?
No, it doesn't jam though. I looked at the sim and it was a bit weird, but
Sorry,
I don't think it jams. So I've looked at this. It's a weirder spot, and it doesn't always jam. It doesn't always jam.
The button might call, you think?
Or raise small, but raise small is pretty much a jam, right?
Yeah. So okay,
Unless
Well-
like small blind and big blind rejam.
It has a calling range, and that means that it's not jamming as much. Ace king off is always getting jammed, but the other hands aren't.
so, like, so the problem I have with, so like so the problem I'm having factoring this in is like he has a small calling range, is what you're saying, right? Or is it a wide calling range?
It's wide enough. If I'm right, if I'm right.
I just think it's hard for the button to start calling 20 big blinds and then having like an almost guaranteed small blind call. Not an almost guaranteed small blind call because he's gonna actually have to fold, overfold the equity, but like he's gonna, the stack off from the small blind. I don't know, it's gonna be inconvenient. So I find it hard to believe that the button is gonna call that much. I think the strategy versus like when you only have 2.5 committed and like then there's the 3-bet, now the cold 4-bet. Like I think you need to actually like play 5-bet or fold, but I could be wrong.
I think there will be some calls just because you're in position on both of them.
Maybe call like aces and then some other hands.
Like
Yeah, I think kings as well, and yeah, but then it jams. It jams.
Like if you're saying you looked at the sim, then I'm assuming you're right. So
Yeah,
Alright,
but I might be wrong.
What's the calling range? I mean, so
Queens-
the jamming range
Queens
was
is alley.
so the jamming range we talked about earlier. It was jacks plus and ace king. So
Yeah, but,
the calling range with one play behind is going to be
Kings plus.
no, not quite with queens plus ace king. Sorry, jacks plus ace king. So
Oh yeah, I guess we can call queens, but
so okay, so
we don't
what
want
I
to
do
call
know-
ace king off.
So what I do know is if the small blind calls, if we're the small blind and call, the big blind has to basically fold. Like it's gonna be kings. His like the big blind's like overcall range is gonna be kings plus or aces. I'm not even sure. It's either kings and aces or just aces because he has to worry about both of us. So if that's the case,
yeah, I mean, are you really going to fold kings when button opens? Not really.
no. So the big blind overcall range. Sorry, the big blind overcall range is gonna be kings plus. So, what should we like? We need to call slightly looser than that, so it's not kings plus. I'd say it's something like queens plus ace king.
I think ace king suited,
probably.
Ace king suited.
Ace king,
Yeah.
queens plus ace king suited sounds fine to me.
Cool. Yeah. So there's a big difference between ace king suited and ace king off here.
Yeah.
Ace king off is going to play pretty poorly. In a multi-way all in, it's going to get absolutely crushed. Yeah, look at here. So like there's a big difference between the EV of calling. So here the EV of calling is minus 22.8, but here the EV of calling is minus 5.4. So it's a big 15%. So 15 big blind, 16 big blind difference for that 4% difference in equity. And that's because of the chance of getting an overcall and getting crushed all in. So I think we can have a look at just some all-in ranges. So just say like go really tight like this. 3 ways. And then we have a look at the equity of these hands. So the multi-way all-in ace king off's getting the weakest out of all these hands. Right. 4.2% difference there. If we tighten up the ranges a bit for the other two players, yeah, you can see it's doing even worse. Right, so ace king gets crushed in multi-way all-ins. So definitely always fold ace king when there's 2 players all in already. Okay, because it performs worse than jacks, right? As we've seen here.
Probably does worse than tens.
Yeah. Just have a look at all the it's going to take a while. Still worse than 10, still worse than 6-5 suited. Yeah, it does pretty trash. Ace King offsuit, that is. So yeah, multiple all-ins, trying to avoid with Ace King. Definitely Ace King offsuit wants to fold. Ace King suited is just okay. Another thing is Ace King suited. If you have Ace King suited, yeah, never mind. Right.
Thomas,
Yep.
can you go? Can you? I think I'm not sure for David or Mark was saying something about the button having a flatting range.
Yeah. So here,
Is that true? Yeah.
I mean, the precision on the sim isn't high enough for me to be able to tell you one way or another. But definitely, if you think about a jamming range, it's going to be Jack plus and Ace King,
Right.
maybe Ace Queen suited.
Okay, but he doesn't call any, right?
Well, there it says they're calling Ace Queen suited sometimes, and it's higher expectation than the other ones, but the precision isn't high enough. When I rerun, I'm going to run another button open sim with 5 open sizes and a limp, to high accuracy and high precision, so it's going to be pretty damn good. So it'll have limp 40%, 60%, 80%, 100%, 120%. So that'll be up to 4x open button versus small blind versus big blind.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I just have to wait for the low Jackson to finish. All right. Folds cutoff opens 2.5. Button raises, we raise. Button jams, and it's just on us.
Wait, so
So we call 4-bet, and then we get 5-bet by the original 3-better.
Well, this time our 4-bet range is tighter than, say, big blind versus small blind versus button. So let's see how much different it is.
so we're the small blind here,
Yeah.
and then big blind will go button jams. What do we do? Okay.
It still looks roughly the same. Button versus small blind versus button, and small blind versus button versus cutoff. Just slightly tighter, like we don't have as much ace queen off, king jack suited. What did we call before when we were in the big blind? It was jacks plus ace king. Actually, we call it every pair. We called it every pair.
Yeah, I think the queen's plus ace king though.
Wait. What was your question? Sorry.
When the button jammed like jacks plus ace king, we call with nines plus ace king.
Oh.
I think.
Okay. So the button's gonna have a calling range here, right? Right. So we called for, but the button will call, obviously, right? Sometimes.
Yeah.
So the fact that he jams, I'm pretty happy with jacks plus ace king off and suited. So jacks plus ace king up, like, because there's the dead money of the cutoff that does affect things again, right?
Yeah.
We're calling 79 to win 202.5.
I guess you can add in the big blinds one as well. If that changes it a little.
203.5. So 79 on 203.5 is 38.8%, so 39%. And like, I just think that like, let's just assign him a range of, I'm gonna open up it. Yeah, let's just assign him a range of like, say queens plus ace king or jacks plus ace king, the button.
Yeah.
Then I think the hand, like, I just think a hand like jacks is gonna have the equity. I think ace king is gonna have the equity. So because you need exactly 39%, right? There's no. Oh yeah, you just need 39%, and pretty sure that Jacks and Ace King are gonna have it. All these hands are gonna have it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so this is the jamming range. So a little bit of queens, but ace king offsuit, but it's kings and ace king suited,
Queens, kings,
Oh, even
ace
for,
king.
like if he calls aces, yeah, it's much easier even.
and then calling ranges jacks plus an ace king. There was a little bit of jacks, a little bit of sixes and sevens and stuff is weird stuff as well. But that's why the jacks is better than the tens. I mean, when the range is ace king heavy, tens often fares a bit better than jacks.
It does better than
Here because there's a little bit of jacks in there already, and it's not super heavy in
Well,
in
he
ace
actually
king.
has quite a bit of a calling range because it's just him.
Yeah, he's in position again, decent odds, calling 30.4% of the time. I mean, it looks bigger than it is because all these hands were not at 100% frequency. So here, this is the button, the 3-bet range here. 3-bet and then call 4. Yeah. Alright, hopefully we put everything in correctly. 37 points. Alright, that I've messed up somewhere. Which question didn't have all the points? They should all have 4 points.
Yeah, that one.
This
Yeah,
one
yeah.
here. Alright, I'll change that. Anyway, they should have 4 points as well. That was the last one. Alright. Very good. So, yeah, hopefully you guys learned something about the get-in ranges, how to calculate your expectation when you're thinking about jamming it yourself into a pot with a good chunk of dry money. A good chunk of dead money. How much equity you kind of need, how to calculate your expectation roughly. Bit of Equilab work, looking at the strength of different ranges. Fair bit of all-in stuff. I think most of these hands were looking at all-ins. That was the theme, wasn't it?
Yep.
Oh no, there was some other stuff. Yeah, but there was jams anyway. Yeah, we're looking at jamming range or responses to jamming ranges. So hopefully you guys learned some stuff about that, how tight you need to play, how wide you can jam, certain kinds of hands make for good jams in certain situations and others, and the importance of that dead money that's in the pot, especially when there's a lot of callers. Maybe something you can apply to live games when lots of people limp around. How wide you have to get it in 100 blinds deep because of those extra calls of the open raise.
So shouldn't you kind of factor in like in the live games, right? So like just there's a lot of calls or whatever. Like, can't you just consider that to be the rake? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
well, you got to factor it into your calculation.
I think there's something else, like the caller has to pay the rake, right?
Yeah, so
Like they should only call if it's profitable after factoring rake. So if
Right.
it has like a higher rake cap, maybe they actually need to call much tighter.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's what I was basically saying, like, okay. Yeah, I see it both ways. Okay.
Cool. All right. So yeah, so we compared a little bit of heads up to squeeze spots, and the heads up the get-in ranges are a fair bit tighter than the squeeze spots because the squeeze spots there's that little bit of extra dead money in the middle, which ends up winding up the ranges of everyone by a tad. All right. Any other questions?
Wait, so the initial squeeze ranges are tighter, but the get it in ranges are wider, right? Or it's wider in both spots.
Wider in both spots. So like we'll have an example. So, say for example, low jack open, and we're in the big blind. So low jack open's been. You can see the big blind here just against the low jack by itself. the value is like queens plus, and they've got ace king, right? But if there's a call, say from the button, here, suddenly it's jacks plus.
Okay. So, but is it only the big blind that ends up squeezing wider, or is it from everywhere?
From everywhere. So here's small blind as well.
There's more dead money.
Yeah, because there's more dead money, and the bigger the open size, the even more dead money there is. So, with bigger open sizes and more calls, there's even more dead money. Probably most obvious in the cutoff. Cutoff opens to 3. This is why cutoff shouldn't open to 3. Cutoff opens to 3, and then there's a call, right? How wide that is compared to just against the cutoff open. So I roughly set for the small blind, but with the big blind it's a fair bit wider. Or if there's multiple calls, right, the big blind goes pretty down wide with their squeeze, a pretty squeeze happy here. With an open and multiple calls. Let's have a look at this. So like low jack opens and then there's like a bunch of callers, right? So for example, it goes call, 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 so 3 calls. There's a big blind there. Not so obvious. Anyway, so it's 10s plus ace queen. Or hijack, the sim needs to run a bit more. Hijack opens to 3 and it's a call, call, call. 10s plus ace jack plus ace queen off. Or to like 2.5. Oh, call, call. 10s plus ace queen plus a little bit of some other stuff that will fold to a jam. Yeah. So against the hijack open by itself, the big blind's only 3 betting for value jacks plus, but with the extra callers to here, you got 10s for quote unquote value. Look at the expectation of raising there as 5 big blinds, which is huge compared to just against the open. It's only 0.5 big blinds. So with all the extra dead money in, the expectation of the big blind when they have a strong hand goes up by a lot. Right, so I'll say that again. Here the hijack, with hijack open and nothing else, the big blind with 10s, EV is half a big blind, but with the 1, 2, 3 extra callers, it goes up to 6 big blinds. So big difference.
What are the callers calling? What does the caller range look like?
Sorry.
Well,
So their calling range is like mostly pocket pairs. They're mostly set mining.
Are there no like call and then back raises?
Yeah. So there will be. You got queens and ace king there. I mean, the frequency of these hands is pretty low in the first place because they would have squeezed themselves. When you're in position, calling them back raising isn't super important.
When you're in position, calling them back raising isn't super important. Okay.
Yeah, because you can just call and then call. But like when that happens, all the hands are indifferent anyway. It's really the opener that has the number of hands to defend.
Okay, so then like their call just gives you better pot odds when a squeeze. If you can't.
Yeah. So like say for example you squeeze and then one of these players can rip on you with their strongest pocket pair because of all the extra dead money in and the width of your range. So here for example fold and then cut off like jams. That's how wide you have to call. The button jams. With their 10s, that's how wide you have to call. Like you have to call 77%. Right, so one jams 80%. So yeah, you're calling really wide after you squeeze, and then one of the cat players jams into you, and that kind of makes sense. There's all extra dead money in the pot, and no one to defend it. Right, so here for example, open and then 3 callers. Right, there's 10 big blinds in the pot already. 11 big blinds in the pot. If you include the big blinds, 1 big blind, so there's 11 big blinds already. And then when there's a squeeze, from the big blind, even a pot size squeeze. Right, the big blind only makes it 15 big blinds. So then there's 25 big blinds in the middle now. Right, so that those 25 big blinds has to be defended somehow. So when the opener folds, right, and you're on the button, and you've got tens, you can rip it to try and win that 25. Even though you know that when the opponent calls, that when a squeezer calls, you're not in great shape. But because there's so much dead money in the middle, if they fold a little bit, your expectation is pretty high. Well, higher than folding. All right. Any questions about all that? And there's another quiz coming up specifically on squeezing, so we can talk about it more in depth then.
Preflop's hard to get right.
Yeah. Yeah, and preflop's going to be probably the easiest. It's like the lowest hanging fruit to increase your EV, because like post flop you have to know like a lot more than preflop in terms of the time that you put in compared to how much expectation you're going to get out of it, because the deck is neutral, right? So you can't really, like, if you've got a hand that's too weak, the deck doesn't give a shit. So there's not much you can do post flop to increase your EV if you made a mistake pre-flop.
Yeah, it's also just like what you start from, right? Like, if you want your, like, in order to be, like, I don't know how to say, like, if you start making mistakes, your mistakes kind of compound, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, sure.
Like,
if you make a big pre-flop mistake, then post flop, you're probably not going to have any idea what you're doing.
you're going to have all minus EV options, like, so yeah.
Cool. All right. So no more questions. We'll call it a day.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
all right.
Thank you.
See you guys.